Hi, this is Ashley Swartz. I'm here at CES 2015 doing my top 10 wrap up for Beat TV. It's our fifth year here, I think, for Beat. We're doing it Wednesday this year. I still have a voice. I'm really excited about that. So kind of what mattered for the media and advertising industry now that everybody and their brother is in Vegas at this point in time, the first week of the year. I think I noticed that everybody over 35 is bitter they have to be in Vegas the first week of the year. That was kind of notable. And more every year, it becomes less about the show and the show floor and the announcements. There weren't that many super notable, impactful announcements this year. I mean, Intel spoke about its diversity policy, I know, as a sidebar, which is really interesting that they chose CES as the forum to do that. So it's really about the meetings. People come in, they're coming out, they're staying for 48 hours max, making, the party is kind of checking the list, doing it, going full onto the wall for 48 hours and then flying right out, right? So number one, my top 10, the Internet of Things. It's bringing sexy back, right? Washers, dishwashers, ovens. All what's happening is we're creating this sort of demand-based marketing, right? Where what we're doing is turning what are utility or sort of necessity objects within the house, so we're turning them into gadgets and driving demand from early adopters and innovation by connecting them with other devices and creating utility applications through the Internet connectivity that is sort of new and innovative, right? And makes it interesting because it's now a gadget and it's something you're going to compare in a different way when you're actually shopping. It's more of a Best Buy experience, if you will, than it is a Home Depot experience of shopping. Wearables, they're everywhere, everybody's got one, and what I noticed is that they're all still ugly, honestly, and the reality is that not one device is doing everything well. You've got fitness devices, you've got utility devices, things like that. Everybody's sort of sprinkling a little bit of both. The new devices in particular, they're integrated, but because we don't really have a ubiquitous dominant OS, we've got Android, we've got iOS, etc. Those guys that are coming in the marketplace right now, other than Apple, are having a really time sort of offering it all in one. I think that's still going to continue to be a challenge. And at the end of the day, who wants to charge their watch every night? I personally don't, but that's my thing. Finally, there are things to simplify our lives on the show floor. It's not just visionware, right? Qualcomm and Intel actually had the most valuable and meaningful things on the floor that would make my life better, and that is wireless charging and rapid charging, right? Let's think about what happened in the industry if we could have a meaningful impact on battery life. I think that there's a lot to be thought about there. That's battery life itself is one of the biggest impediments for the proliferation of mobile devices and their performance, and actually what we can do with them, what's required. So I think that actually is going to have sort of an under-the-radar kind of impact on what we can do and what we see next year. Anybody not have a tour at CES anymore, right? I mean, everybody their brother. AOL, Shelley Palmer, CES itself, MediaLink, everybody's got a tour. So I'm going to do one next year, and it's going to have a foot rub afterwards, and I bet I get the best participation. Number 5. So, in case you're wondering, yeah, actually Google is everywhere, right? They absolutely are. They're having a comeback. So, and I don't think they ever went away. I just think they sort of went quiet for a while, right? So they've got 4 or 5 manufacturers now that have the Android OS on television and they're going big with it. We've got them in car OSs and the automotive software. They are everywhere and they are omnipresent. And I think we need to stand up and pay attention. Number 6, it's the age of her, as in the film with Joaquin Phoenix, because the unmanned objects or devices, right, are more and more present. So unmanned aircraft, right, the drones we saw unmanned vacuums, robots, we saw window washers, unmanned car driving, automotive, right, driverless driving. It's kind of amazing that we're trying to sell things that actually reduce work, but more importantly, make the human interaction and the human experience that much less important, which leads me to the fact that my number 7, if you will, but I actually might have 11 here this year, is that I have not seen discovery or user experiences have a meaningful improvement year over year, and that still boggles my mind, right? So one of my number 7 is really about the fact that it's like TV today is meeting Lycos, right? It's the era of the throwback. We have the portal. So whether it's the new Hisense Roku device that when you power it up, it takes you right to the home screen, or what we saw in LG's booth, this idea of a unified home screen experience that includes the smart TV functionality and applications, as well as all the HDMI inputs, so you don't have to toggle back and forth. It's great, but it isn't impacting discovery, right? Universal search, it's still not easier to use. The designs that I've seen coming out of Samsung, LG, as far as what their new sort of home screen experience is, it's still not making it easier to approach the device itself and actually search and find and find entertainment as far as the unified experience is concerned. And so that to me is kind of a big disappointment, because every single year we talk about discovery and nobody has made a meaningful sort of impact or improvement there year over year. Number 8. Finally, real disruption. It's been slung with the Sling Box. Let's hope, see if they can execute, right? But the Sling Box has incredible potential for our industry to have some meaningful impact. 20 bucks a month, 20 channels, all your apps are integrated. It's a slim, sleek, sort of small piece of hardware. Whether or not this actually delivers the promise, we'll see. But this is the first in a step of what we're gonna see over the next sort of 24 months, which is the real meaningful impact of unbundling on our industry, what it has to do for advertising and media. And I think Sling is the first step of many that we're gonna see coming from different operators around the US. 4K is really still in need of the money shot, if you will. I mean, 4K is everywhere this year, right? It's all about 4K. We saw 116K, but the reality is there's no content. We're still showing like images of landscapes and cities and things like that, which is great and beautiful, but we're not seeing a ton of content. Dish did say in their booth that they're getting ready to start actually distributing 4K content, but the reality is that it's still cost prohibitive. So we're sort of in this situation where we've got these devices coming to market, you know, whether or not you can actually see the visible improvement. Obviously curved screens as well were quite popular this year. But if we don't have content, then the reality is the demand for the hardware is going to be sort of less meaningful over the next 2 to 4 years. I'm noting less flash, which actually is kind of amazing, right? There's less booth babes, it's less of a like pure sort of dude show, right? I mean, there's a lot more, I think, business being done. I think a lot of people are here to actually get business done as well, which is kind of palpable on the show floor. It's less about entertainment, sort of making big noise, and more about actually setting up. We had a couple booths that, like, for example, Hisense was one, RCA, for example, were just actually meeting areas. They weren't really demonstrating a lot. It was just about getting business done on their show floor space. And we're also seeing a lot softer carpet this year, which says that people want exhibitors want people to come in their booths and stay for a while, which suggests that business is in fact being done. Overall, I give the show, you know, a 5 out of 10. It's a good show this year, but I'm not seeing anything really sort of game-changing or not a lot of wow factor. The Internet of Things is an interesting topic, but it's kind of like this idea of concept of convergence. We've been talking about it or around it for a long time, and until it becomes real and it's starting to really impact the way that we change the way we live, we interact with our devices, or how we consume content, or we interact with one another. Most importantly, this sort of human connection, not the man-machine connection, is really the most important when we talk about the Internet of Things. That is when I'll say, okay, we're back to sort of, you know, the top 25 percentile of 7.5 out of 10 and above for this show. The last thing, finally, there are hipster mobile accessories. There's one booth at CES that is all about sort of a hipster aesthetic. Skinny jeans, I believe the gentleman had a handlebar mustache. I felt like I was at home in Brooklyn. Can't wait to get back on Friday. Thanks so much. See you next year.